And we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to yet another weekly meeting for the Merge Request Report Widgets Working Group. I think I got that right. So I'll cut straight to the agenda and basically starting with the checklists as before. So I don't think there's no blockers to the launch or to the continuous launch, right? Anybody knows otherwise?
I think there was one for test reports. There was a bug with the widget not loading, and I paired yesterday to kind of get through that. So the thing is MR up. Let me see.
Is that the one that Miranda mentioned on the thread on the Slack channel?
Yeah, and I just posted an update. She has an MR up for it, but that would, yeah, we need that, I think. But basically, the problem is on the initial page load because of caching. It's related to the 204 no content, the same thing we were facing. It was basically there's an exception in the callback handler that's been fixed in the MR. I think she has up, but that I don't know if we want to push forward without that. It would manifest as test reports failing to load on the initial load.
And that wasn't there on the old widget?
No, so what it was is an edge case. So it was project specific. There was some nested data that was an empty array in some cases. So this was like, we didn't see it before because it wasn't in the, we didn't have a project with that particular scenario. So it was literally just handling that. When is that value is undefined, we default to 0 or something, just counts. So let me find the MR while others speak.
Okay. Yeah, please post it in the agenda. So the question, because I feel like that's the value of getting the rollout for the feature flags, and the more edge cases revealed by more projects, the better, I would say, for the rollout. That's already identified. There's already a fix for it. The problem is how much of a blocker is that? Because the test summary, if I'm not mistaken, is summarizing the information available on the pipeline, right? There is a workaround.
The workaround is refresh the page.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would put us in severity 3 territory, if I'm not mistaken. Like an easy workaround kind of thing. So I'm tempted to not blocking the rollout. I mean, continuing to broadening the rollout to other projects. Anybody disagrees? Anybody agrees? Thanks for the nod.
Yeah, I think your logic is sound.
Okay. So the issues, MR open, edge case identified, MR open to fix, rollout not blocked. Okay. So blocker solved. Okay, so moving on to the next check for launch, feature flag enabled in production that is correct for specific projects. If I'm not mistaken, and that's the thing that I was trying to confirm, is what projects are enabled at the moment. I have the IDs, so I'll just do that now for not having an easy way to translate that to projects, but I think that's the GitLab org GitLab project, and then the other test projects we had before. But those are the project IDs that we're currently having it enabled for. We are looking to broadening it for all of GitLab in the next step. I think that was the plan. We don't have to go like GitLab.com, www.gitlab.com first, right? We can go straight to global.com enablement, right? Okay, that's what we'll do. So feature flag enabled by default? No, not yet. I put here next steps. Why is this not? Okay, I'm battling with bullet points on the agenda. Right. Next step, enabled globally on.com. That should come on the next Monday, I would say, because tomorrow is Family and Friends Day. So I expect by next Monday, we should start rolling it out to all projects on.com. That will give us more exposure. That will give us more probably edge cases that we need to fix. So, and with that, support will definitely be notified so that they can route the requests to us. Working group wrap up, widgets released. That's kind of a halfway. Well, no, not yet. Documentation reviewed and complete, not yet. I'm lagging behind on my task to find a technical writer to review. I haven't been able to catch up with Amy. Kai, I've been thinking of asking Amy Qualls to kind of help us there. I think she's a perfect candidate for that. Try to reach her to see if we can get her before she goes on holiday. So that's the plan.
Do we have an issue for what we need for documentation?
Well, that's what I wanted to prepare. Right now, well, we already talked about the technical. I talked to Phil about the documentation. He feels like the technical documentation is ready because all the changes that we've been doing with the code base have been documented. Now we just need a review to see what are the gaps, what's missing, what should we document even more. And I feel like that's we'll just show the exit criteria and show what link to all the documentation pages that are relevant, and then have her give us the feedback. What should we write more? Is it clear? I'm thinking, and here's something that came to me yesterday. I think Samantha is working on an early stage of a widget. I'm probably Samantha Ming. So I'm probably going to ask her to, hey, can you also take a look at these pages and see from the perspective of an author of a new widget, is the documentation sane? Because we were all part of the development of the documentation and might be blind. So I'm going to put here, I'll open an issue. So Andre will open an issue and tag Amy, technical writer, and Samantha Ming, front-end engineer, to review the pages. I feel like that will give us a good coverage from the perspectives, technical writing and engineering authoring.
Yeah, I think the big one for tech writing is going to be less about like development docs. Fine, I think Amy can review those. I think the big one will be, are there functional changes, which I don't think there are for any of the widgets, that need to be like updated in feature docs. But what probably will need to happen in all of the feature docs is new screenshots will have to be produced for everything. That's and that's a fairly large lift. So we may want that to go back into the teams to like update their own docs, because they'll know sort of everywhere.
That's a good point. So we should do that by the time that we enable the feature flag by default, or shortly after.
Yeah, shortly after, I think is fine. I think we're typically not. It would be nice if it's done sooner, but I would not make updating the feature docs like a requirement to get this turned on.
I want to put here potentially crowdsourced from the teams who own the widgets.
Yeah,
I'll document that too. Okay, and then we have the DRIs for the widgets, and potentially what we'll leverage is through that channel we can find a way to have those DRIs take care of ensuring that gets updated. Cool. All right. Launch checks done. Announcements, rollout ongoing, enabling prod for certain projects, as I said before, and that was kind of my announcements. Discussion items. I wanted to just bring up the opportunity for us to kind of like get a pulse of how things are going and the feelings about proceeding with a wider rollout, which already briefly discussed. So Fernando, you want to add something?
Yeah, so I'm glad that for the widgets that are not ready, there's the security widget, license compliance, and I think one code quality maybe that Yannick is working on. Those are feature flagged out independently. And that was to enable the rollout to go out with the new stuff and some of the old stuff, so we're not blocked entirely. So with that said, there's this, I'll share my screen really quickly and make sure this is the right one. I did create an MR last week, just we didn't have one. This is in the GitLab MR widgets demo. And the purpose of this MR, the changes actually just add to the YAML file the secure related jobs. This is using static data, but this is how we have the secure demo project. So I just kind of copied over the YAML file. But what that gave us was more of the widgets mixed in with secure widgets. And you see that these are intentionally the old ones for license compliance and security. And these are the new ones. And the point of this MR was just to kind of have a visual, a working visual of this in action. You know, the ones that are flagged out the ones that are flagged in, and making sure they render together and work. So, you know, this stuff all works as is. So I think that is just a sanity check. Feel free to play around with that. The only thing is this, because this MR is the one that introduces the YAML for the additional security stuff, you won't see this right now in any of the other merge requests. So you need to go to this specific one. We merged this merge request into the demo project and we see it for all other feature MRs, but I figured, you know, this is enough to kind of see what we want. Any questions on that? Oh, I guess Andre, you had some other points.
No, I already added that link to that demo MR. Thank you for creating that. That's very useful. I added that to the top of this agenda, at the list of MR examples we have, so we can always refer to those. That's extremely useful. So thanks for that, Fernando. Okay. Any other thoughts? I feel like the pulse has been overwhelmingly positive. It's moving forward. Of course, there's some pains. But I feel like the exposure to wider projects will give us even more confidence in releasing this to the wider crowd. Which makes me think, Kai, we should probably prepare a release posts blog for this, no? What do you think? How do we think? How should we proceed with that? Maybe give it some time to think about that.
Yeah, I'd be hesitant. It's really like a UI improvement. Like we could like put a single item in the UX improvements is sort of how I would like generally think about it. I don't know that this rises to the level of like
a feature.
A feature?
Because functionally it doesn't change much, right?
I don't think so. So like I think it's worth mentioning in the UX improvements, but and that's not to like discount the work. Like the work is important. It's just that like I think in what we communicate, it's good to be thoughtful about like what users will like can try and do versus what they like should just naturally experience.
I agree with that assessment. I think it doesn't devalue at all the work that we've been putting forward, but okay, that works for me. We'll just follow that through the rollout issue, and when the rollout issue is updated with the defaulting to on, we'll add the link potentially to the rollout issue from the UX improvements. Sounds good. This is something that I should have put on the announcements. This is the next point. The telemetry work has been merged. So Thomas finished that off in 15.1. That's already in. If you do have questions, do reach out. I'm going to move it to the announcements now. But I think he's planning on doing some demo or something. So that'll probably come on YouTube and everything. We'll share it on Slack channel once it's up. Fernando, do you have the next point?
Yeah, sorry, I'm adding this as they kind of come up. You know, in these meetings, we've had a lot of representation from designers, product managers, and engineers, but I think noticeably absent was, you know, our QA counterparts. So I was wondering for the DRIs for each widget, if everyone, just friendly reminder, if they've been keeping their QA counterpart in the loop. We do have automation tests, at least for site license compliance, that I had to comment out because I haven't, you know, have to rewrite those end-to-end, or sorry, browser automation tests or interactions with the widget that are currently commented out for license compliance is one example. So I think it's great that everyone's kind of writing unit tests and manually testing, but maybe we should just be a little more transparent. I can do that.
Yeah, for the recording, I'll just voice. Would you mind dropping a comment in the rollout issue and confirm directly? Because now you have the list of DRIs from the engineering perspective on that issue already involved, and just tag them and then, hey, just a quick check. Are you all checking with all your QA counterparts? Because it's definitely something that we don't want to be surprised at the end. So yeah, sounds like a relevant question to put in their radar.
Should we extend that to technical writing as well? Because I know earlier you had mentioned in the agenda about updating feature docs, screenshots and stuff. So you know, a lot of the times I think as engineers, we forget to ping like the docs team. So then they only know because they're browsing issues in the milestone, like, hey, this is in docs. And sometimes that slips through. So I will add that QA and technical writing, if that's okay with you. I'll kind of call it those two. Okay, cool.
I don't see why not. Yeah, I think what I would, so one of the things that I think were useful was to have a DRI for UX and DRI for engineering, but I wouldn't want us to have 4 DRIs because it defeats the purpose of a DRI. I would keep him like this, 2 DRIs, but use one of them to reach the other counterparts. So ping the UX, ping the engineering DRIs and ask them to make sure that they are in touch with their own TWs and SETs.
Awesome.
Thanks, Fernando. That's a good point.
Sure. I guess the last item, we don't have to go do a deep dive because we don't have any even engineers on the call, but just really quickly high level, just for transparency. We needed this for license compliance because license compliance is, I believe, the only widget that actually is 2 optimized endpoints, one for collapse and one for expanded. All the other ones will derive their data from that one endpoint, or either by just using the data that's available from the collapse fetch, or fetching the 2 different same endpoint twice. I think a lot of them now will just fetch it once and then just use the derived data from that initial fetch. License compliance is the exception. But anyway, what this does at a high level is add the ability to pull now the expanded content, and all we did is add and enable full data flag, and that when it's off or not included at all, it should have the existing behavior I had before. So it should be low risk in theory to whatever widgets we have already, because it's a feature enhancement if you enable it. If it's disabled, it should behave exactly the same. I just wanted to call that out, but not a blocker for the rollout. It is an enhancement. It's a blocker for license compliance, but I'll have the MRs up in review.
Got it. Thanks, Fernando. I only have one question. This polling for the expanded content, does this only start when the user expands, or?
Yeah. So the way it piggybacks off the existing functionality. So the difference is when you do the expansion, there's a call to like load all data, and that initiates the initial AJAX request. That's where we're including this logic. It's just the if else. If polling, we kind of go the polling route. If
Got it.
not, so this will only. Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for calling that out. I know that Phil is already there adding his thoughts. So yeah, thank you for that. No further comments from my side. And then I think we're done here. Thank you so much for attending yet another fantastic call. And I'll post this on YouTube, and see you next week.